Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Xbox Casuals, the Xbox podcast. I am one of your hosts, Corey Derrick, and alongside me, as always, is my messaging is so confusing. I don't know what I'm signing up for. Josh Finney,
the Aaron Greenberg to your Phil Spencer
the Aaron Greenberg special.
Christ,
man. Look, you and I said this the other day on Tower Casuals, I think, but there are two people at Xbox that I don't understand how they still have jobs. One of them is Matt Booty, and the other one is Aaron.
So I'm going to defend the Matt Moody one for a little bit because, like, I feel like he's at least, like, attempted to do his job semi-decently. Like, I think we all forget that he was kind of thrown into the role that he's in after the Mojang acquisition went really well that he oversaw. And I feel like it's less of a Phil Spencer thing to have him in charge and more of, like, he was told he's going to be in charge of this.
Yeah.
And, like, I wouldn't say that he's bad at managing the studios. I think, once he adopted the hands-off approach that Phil was taking, great. But you can't do hands-off and then decide you're going to close 4 studios, like, 2 months later. I think that's where the disconnect and the problem comes in. Also, like, I just love the idea of somebody's name being Booty on board at Xbox because, kind of been hot ass for a while. So, yeah. I don't know, man. It's like we said a couple of months ago. It's like every time that they have something good happen, they step on the rakes a couple of weeks later. Like they set out all the rakes before the good news.
Yeah.
And then they spend the next couple months trying to dodge them, but inevitably somebody steps on one just like for shits and giggles.
Yeah, it's bad.
And the fact that they won't even address publicly the price changes that came out for Game Pass, like, tells me that they know they fucked up. And they don't know how to go about it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, on paper, like,
do we just want to get into it?
Yeah, let's just dive into it because
we'll save the fun stuff for the end.
Jesus. On paper, like when it's written out and you don't know any of this stuff is going on, you just look at it for what it is. It all seems fine, right? I mean, like it's still cheaper than PlayStation Plus. It's still like, okay, well,
not whatever. Anymore. It's not,
but like it's still cheaper.
I did the math. I did the math last night. It's not.
If you do it by month, it's cheaper.
Well, if you do it by who the fuck is paying by month?
I'm just saying you can buy PlayStation. You pay for it by 1 month or 3 months or whatever.
I don't know. I don't know. I looked at the proposed changes, and this is needlessly confusing. Okay,
sure, of course it is.
You need 3 Game Passes at this point. Okay, you need Game Pass Console, which should be called Core at this point. Okay, you already have Core. Why do you need Game Pass Console on top of that? You have Game Pass PC, and you have Ultimate.
Well, there's the word standard in there somewhere too. Like, come on, like Core and standard are the same thing.
Well, console is becoming standard, I think. But like I said, it's needlessly confusing. To me, the biggest issue with this is I don't have a massive problem with the price increase. I have a problem with when it's being executed more than anything. If you were doing this, say, next summer, I think we could all go, okay, well, we got Call of Duty included last year, at least. You and I have talked about it. We really felt like the price bump was going to come the second that they announced that Call of Duty was going to come to Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
But you are doing this price bump without the flood of AAA games actually coming out and sticking the landing. That, I think, is my biggest issue with this. If you did this next summer, I think people would look at it and go, okay, well, in the last year, we got Hellblade, we got Indiana Jones, we got Avowed, we got Flight Sim, maybe you've gotten Towerborn, Fable, South of Midnight by next summer. We got Call of Duty as a part of it. If you're on PC, you got Aura, you get Age of Mythology, Stalker is going to be on there. You're getting a handful of really great indies this fall. I think the value is still there for Ultimate. If Xbox is the primary place you play.
Yeah. I mean,
I think it's a much harder sell and I think it's a value. I definitely think the value is still there if you only play on PC. The PC value is out of this world.
That's the best one.
That is hands down the best one. And to me, that signifies that Xbox knows that a lot of their audiences transition, because Xbox is always kind of skewed towards like older teenagers and like college students and adults, like really like the 17s and ups. And I feel like that's still true, but I feel like a lot of Xbox's base has started shifting to PC. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, they're going to get your money either way. It's just, it looks bad when you're trying to talk about console sales. I think the value is there. Like I don't have the value with PS Plus, because PS Plus doesn't do the day one releases. And I think that's always been Xbox's biggest selling point with Game Pass. There is a point though where consumers are going to say, I'm paying too much money for subscriptions. And for me, $20 has been my jumping off point for a couple of years now. If this goes above 20, the value is lost for me. I'm not paying more than $20 for this subscription. I would rather not have Call of Duty and still get all my other games day one than pay $20 or more a month. I think the worst part about this is I think Call of Duty gets yanked from this next year and they still leave the price increase. That's the most aggravating part of this. If you were saying Ultimate is going to be like, if you raise the price of Standard to like $12, fine. Okay, fine. You want to increase it to 12, still keep the day one games, fine. And then say Ultimate, you're going to get all the stuff for Ultimate, but with Ultimate, we're also going to include Call of Duty, or we're going to include like a perk that once a year you can get a couple of free months of World of Warcraft time or something. Things like that being a part of Ultimate would be a bigger selling point, I think, for those who are like in that, like deep into the Xbox ecosystem or into the WoW ecosystem. They're really hedging their bets that people are going to want to come here because, if we get Game Pass, we get Call of Duty with it. Well, I might as well just get an Xbox and play there. That's where the best experience is going to be. Look at all these other games I'll get included. I really think that instead of raising the price, they should have just cut EA Play out. Who is using EA Play? Like, seriously. It cannot be a significant number of people.
I mean, EA doesn't put out enough games for it to be useful at this point.
I mean, they put out the games. It's just they take so long to get them there that it doesn't matter. Because, like, say something like Jedi Survivor, like, if you wanted to play that game, you bought it at launch. The game sold incredibly. Sold like 8 million copies before it came to Game Pass.
Yeah.
Which was like a month ago, by the way. So people have already played it. Same thing happened with Fallen Order. Like, the sports games, they come after 7 or 8 months. If you wanted to play those, you've already played those. I can guarantee you they're going to take the full year to bring college football over. And other than that, like, what else is, like, EA occasionally puts out an RPG? They're going to take the full year to put Dragon Age on there.
Yeah.
Which is smart.
Oh, yeah.
Like, from a monetary perspective, I'm not faulting them, but, like, you can get these games for, like, $20 by the time they hit services.
Yeah.
So, to me, that would have been the smart money, is getting rid of that and, like, maybe scaling back on the Riot partnership. Now that you have things like Overwatch in-house. But, I'm not the guy in charge of any of this. I get why they still have the Riot partnership. If they really are intent on launching that mobile store sometime in the next year, having a partnership with the company that makes Teamfight Tactics is a big deal. And that makes, League of Legends, that's a big deal. I get it. Valorant's coming to console finally. Like, it feels like that partnership is finally going to pay off for more than just PC gamers. But this feels really ill-timed. I think it's a mistake to do it before you have all these AAA games hitting. To do it right after you've done a couple studio closures is not a great look.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good.
It's not good. It's a very bad look. And right as I really feel like we're about to go into this season where, damn, the games are finally here. Like, we're going to hit that point that we did with the PS4. Okay. And when I say we're going to hit that point with like we did with PS4, I'm not guaranteeing like the critical acclaim of the run that they went on of like Horizon, God of War, Spider-Man, Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, blah, 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 all in a row. I'm not saying Xbox is going to do anything close to that. But the way that first party games became an event for PlayStation where they never had been before, or hadn't been for at least a generation, I guess I should say, I feel like Xbox is on the verge of that. But they really needed a really strong string of games. I really think if you had, and I know it's a lot to ask of a company, sorry, you're the most profitable company in the world right now, and, I'm asking you to wait 12 to 18 months on this. But I think if you had held this until like Q1 2026 and been like, hey, you guys see all the experiences you've gotten over the last 18 months of, of our games, of Activision, of look at the back catalog of Activision, look at the games Bethesda's put out, look at our third party partners that we've gotten. Like, if you were able to point to all that and say, if you want that cadence, we need to raise the value by we need to raise the price by $2 a month. I think that would have been a much easier sell. Mm-hmm. Gaming is already a very expensive premium hobby. And that's what I was saying. Like, if you're ingrained in the Xbox ecosystem, you're probably not thinking twice about this. Like me, you're kind of like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, you're going to get one of the year's best reviewed games on Game Pass next week in Nutsugami. Or excuse me, later this week. It comes out on Thursday, I think. You're going to get Nutsugami, which got incredible reviews this morning. You're going to get Dungeons of Hinterberg is coming. That's one of my most anticipated indies. When you look at the games that you're getting like into next year, like Doom is finally going to be coming. It comes out to the equivalent of, if you pay for a full year, it's like 3.5 games. Great. For those of us like you and me who were already going to buy most of the first party lineup, it's a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. I play all my indies on Xbox purely because a lot of the ones I look forward to get deals through Game Pass. Mm-hmm. And that's great. And I think like that's an underreported angle of it, I think, is there's been a number of indie developers and publishers who have come out and said, no, like, people wanting to rag on Xbox and Game Pass just because it's Xbox, essentially. And they're like, no, this is actually a great tool for us. Like, we sell tons more copies when our games come to something like Game Pass because of the awareness. They're like, even if they're not being played through Game Pass, people are seeing us on stage at these shows or seeing the marketing of, hey, this is coming to Game Pass, and it's like plastered on their dashboards or on their coming soons, or, ID at Xbox is tweeting about it, or, releasing trailers for us and stuff like that. They're like, this gets us a lot of attention.
Yeah.
So, and people see like, oh, it's coming to Game Pass. Like, damn, that's going to be part of my sub. Like, that's going to be a big deal. Who was it? They make a lot of smaller games. I want to say it's No More Robots.
Yeah, the studio behind like Descendants, the
publisher that's done like Descendants, and they did a few other smaller games around the time of Series X launching, actually. Their main guy, like their main curator or their CEO or whatever, has been a huge defender. Mike Rose, that's who I'm thinking of. Has been a huge defender of Xbox and of Game Pass, and been like, hey, our games get like 500% more sales when they appear in something like that. Because I think like, and I think that comes less from consoles and more of like PC gamers. I feel like kind of use Game Pass as like a guide of like, oh, hey, maybe I'll try it out here, but because the Xbox app is so fucking abysmal on Windows, if I like this, I'm gonna go buy it on Steam. So you're kind of getting that engagement with double metrics. Mm-hmm. What I do think that this price raise means is you're probably going to see less mega third-party deals. So, like, less stuff like Persona 3 Reload. And less stuff like Nutsugami. And more indies, if anything else. I think it's really going to be a platform to continue to discover those indies on day one. And that's where, like, the value for me still comes in compared to something like PS Plus. PS Plus doesn't get those day one games. They've gotten 3 really good indies this year, day one. I will say that. But they're the only day one releases they've gotten in forever. And I mean, granted, the 3 that they got Dave the Diver on console, they got Animal Well, and they got Zao. And, Animal Well's reviewed extremely well.
Yeah.
So those are all cool games to come. But I mean, I think those are their first day one releases since Sea of Stars. So, like, if I'm going to pay that amount, I'd rather pay and get all the first party titles of a certain console, even if it means I'm paying a little bit more, because I'm getting that whole first party suite. I'm getting a ton of indies every year. I'm getting a decent back catalog. I'm not waiting like 2 or 3 years for games to come into the back catalog. Mm-hmm. Like the biggest story should not be, oh, Borderlands 3 is a part of PS Plus this month. Oh boy. A game we've been able to get since like 2018. Oh boy. That should not be like the lead story here, And like, God, you think it's confusing with the new Xbox stuff? I implore you to have basic PS Plus and try to look through the game library and see how little you can actually play with it. Even when you have extra, which my thing auto renewed. When it was like $100, I thought it was still a good deal for someone who plays PlayStation sparingly. It let me catch up on a bunch of games when I got my PS5. But man, PSP games and PS1 games being locked behind premium feels really bad. Game trials being locked behind premium feels really bad. And like, I guess you're not getting that with Xbox, at least. Just now, it's kind of unclear how things are going to work with day one releases. Like, are you still going to do day one indies on console and PC, or do you have to have Ultimate for that? We know the day one, if they go through with this, like day one first party games are going to mostly be tied to Ultimate at that point. I would say, unless it's like a multiplayer game, but like a single player game like Hellblade, probably going to be locked to Ultimate.
Mm-hmm.
We know Call of Duty is being locked to because people will pay extra just because it's Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And they'll see that, oh, if you pay extra for even like 3 months, great.
Yeah.
We got our money's worth. And like the whole thing is to design to get console players to ditch their console sub and go get Ultimate. That's what this is designed to do.
Yeah.
And I think like we've gotten to a point where we need to get rid of core, because first of all, who the fuck is charging for us to play on a console in 2024? That needs to go away. I'm sorry. Like, I know that's a huge revenue earner for both Sony and Microsoft. It needs to go away. I get to go play on PC for free.
Yeah. And I think that's a big drive. I think that's why a lot of people are being driven to PC too, right? I mean,
yeah, I would say that. I think the mod scene for like a lot of RPGs and stuff drives people there. The freedom, the uncapped frame rates, like, yeah, if you've got the money to go build even a halfway decent PC, like, I'd almost encourage you to do it. And like, a lot of people have gotten to the point where they have, where they have like a computer and a Switch, and that basically gets everything done for them.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people still have PS5s, but I mean, I don't think it's any secret that if Sony would release their games within a decent time frame, even taking the EA approach of like, oh, we're going to wait like 12 months, people would ditch their PS5 so fast and go to PC.
I mean, look at Ghost of Tsushima. It was the best-selling game in May. It came out.
Yeah, people wait. Like the PC crowd is a stubborn bunch. They'll wait.
Mm-hmm.
They'll fucking wait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't tell you how many people have not purchased Alan Wake 2 on PC because it's only on Epic, and they'll be like, "We'll wait."
And I mean, it's never going to leave Epic.
I know it's not, but
Well, wait. I guess we shouldn't say never, but I feel pretty confident saying it's not leaving Epic.
Yeah.
Epic Game Store would need to completely collapse at that point. So,
yeah.
I don't know, man. This is just like the latest gaffe that feels unnecessary.
Yeah. It's I don't know, man. It's bad. It's bad messaging again. Shocker. It's bad for. It's even worse because they've changed this so many times and have taken tiers off and added tiers so many times that it's like, what are you doing? Just stop. Stop messing with it. Like, okay, well, you had it fine the first time. Okay, here's Xbox Live Gold. Okay, whatever. Here's console and PC Game Pass. Okay, and then here's Ultimate. Great. 3 tiers. Great. Keep it that way. But no, then we changed Xbox Live Gold to Core, which lets you play online. And then you had the standard one, which was what, $12.99 or $11.99 or something.
Yeah.
And you couldn't play online. So it's like, well, do I want these games and not play online, or do I want to play online and not have these games?
It was always designed to get you to Ultimate. They're just being more brazen about it now.
Right. And it's just like, oh my gosh, just figure it out, man. It's not that hard. It's not that hard to figure this shit out.
No, it's really not. It's downright infuriating.
I get it. You want to raise the price, but like the tier system should not be what's holding you back. Right. It's just, this is just, I think 90% of the people are pissed off because the messaging is bad. It's not because the price increase. It's because the messaging is terrible. And the marketing is terrible. That's the whole problem with this thing. And like, yes, okay, $3 isn't going to break the bank, but like you think about like, okay, over the course of the next, like you said, $20, over $20 is where you're going to jump off. I think for me, it'd be more like 25 might be the jumping off point. But like at that point, like if you get closer to like $30, you might as well just buy the games at that point too. And then you're like, well, what's the point of a subscription service? And then I don't know, man, this whole messaging thing is just, The thing too is like half the team is saying one thing and half of them are saying another, right? Like we just talked about with Matt Booty saying one thing and then them closing the studios, whatever. It just feels like a mess all the time. All the time.
All the time.
And I don't get it, because like at its core, the Xbox ecosystem is so good. Like the operating system is great. The online functionality is great. The store is probably the best of the console families by far, in my opinion. The controller is the best controller. The box is the best box. Like, in my opinion, like the Xbox experience at its core is the best. But you don't have the right people
The
creating the
messaging
right
sucks
messaging.
dick, though.
Yeah.
The messaging sucks dick. The marketing sucks dick. I understand why Phil went with the approach he did for a few years of we need to just let these studios cook. But it's become more and more apparent for maybe 2 years now that maybe you should have put the foot down a little bit quicker. Because, and I understand, it's a catch-22. You're really in this position of like, you don't want to seem like you're a hard ass on these studios you got, but like Undead Labs had to completely oust all of their leadership and start over.
Yeah.
We saw what happened with Redfall. We're kind of seeing what happens when you let have too much creative freedom and an unlimited budget to make an auteur experience that's not going to recoup you any money in Hellblade.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got studios like Obsidian over here busting their ass trying to get you a game like every 12 to 18 months, no matter how big it is.
Right.
And, we saw what happened, unlimited time and budget with Starfield. And Starfield, wasn't the game that a lot of people expected, or that I think even Microsoft was hoping it would be. And at a certain point, you have to be the leader and put your foot down. You can't be like, oh my God, we got an unexpected success from somewhere, and then stymie the growth of your teams by saying, well, we're closing that studio down 15 months later.
Right.
Like, what the fuck message does that send to your people?
Yeah. It's like, well.
And I understand that you can't coast on the legacy of one game for forever, in the case of Arcane Austin. And I'm not even advocating that they deserve to be closed down, but that was at least semi-defensible as opposed to Tango.
Right.
Like, holy shit, I do think if you're taking like 5-6 years to make one single experience and you're not having smaller teams making other games at this point in the like development eco cycle, then that's a you problem.
Yeah.
I think more studios really need to take the Insomniac and Obsidian approaches here. But just Jesus Christ, man, like I don't understand what is going through the mind. And this is why I don't think it's like purely a Phil Spencer thing. I do think that some of this is people at Microsoft who have never picked up a controller in their life trying to tell you how to manage your business.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is we talked about this once the Activision Blizzard thing went through, but like the penny pinchers are paying attention to Xbox now because they just spent $70 billion on it.
Yeah, it's now like the most valuable division besides Windows at Xbox. And so they got to start making money now. Like when you had just purchased Bethesda, like you probably could have still flown under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
Because that with all your other acquisitions combined probably came at like 10, 11 billion.
Yeah.
Then you add Activision. And this is why I don't think that it was a Phil Spencer decision to buy Activision. I think Satya saw, hey, they're in trouble. We're buying them.
Yeah.
We're buying them because of the magic words Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
And because even if you don't play games, Call of Duty. You've heard of World of Warcraft. You've probably heard of Diablo and Overwatch.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of those properties. Like people know Crash Bandicoot. They know Tony Hawk.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when Spyro the Dragon is maybe the least famous property that you just acquired, that's saying something.
Right.
And I like something was going to have to give. It's coming a lot faster than anybody expected, I think. And that's another problem for them. Like they have to figure out how to navigate this now. And I think Phil is trying to balance the idea of, I want to be a CEO for the gamers, but I have people I answer to ultimately.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to give him a free pass. I know it sounds like I am. I know it sounds like I sound like I am. I'm not trying to say that he's completely like, blame free, because he's definitely not. Him and Matt could have chosen a much more delicate way to do these closures or to absorb these teams. Like And I get that they were like, yeah, you got to get rid of teams that don't have games, that are pitching games, because I think it was like, oh, it was this idea we don't want to wait 4 or 5 years for the next game.
Right.
And they want their studios to be transitioning into like that Obsidian mindset of multiple projects going at once. But there had to have been a better way to I mean, honestly, like, and we'll never know what went on behind closed doors. If I'm Phil, I'm fighting like hell to keep Arcane and Tango open. Like, you were able to fold Roundhouse into ZeniMax Online. You couldn't have folded Arcane Austin into Bethesda Austin.
Right.
Like, that couldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Tango, and I get it. Tango, that's a unique situation. You're in Asia, but they just made a Game of the Year nominee. Awards are still coming in for that game, and the studio was closed.
Right.
Like, that's how bad things have gotten. Like, you're really going to tell me that you couldn't have just absorbed them, or like let them keep doing their own thing? At least let them buy their way out of the contract.
Right.
Like, come on, man. You got to be fucking kidding me. Like, and then to turn around, and this is where the whole Matt Booty thing comes in. For Matt to turn around and essentially imply like, well, Shinji Mikami left, so we didn't feel confident. He left because he was confident in the future of the studio.
Yeah.
That he saw how good Hi-Fi Rush was going and how it was being received. He thought Ghostwire Tokyo was a solid building block, and they still had, the team from The Evil Within, so he bounced.
Yeah.
How the fuck does he... like, you're really going to try and blame it on Shinji Mikami leaving?
Right.
Like, who do you think you are? It's maddening and it's really frustrating. Like, I think you actually had an opportunity to do something really unique with Arcane Austin. You would have rolled them into Bethesda and been like, hey, you can have a team that still does support work on Bethesda games, but you've got a bigger staff now. You can make smaller, immersive sim experiences now.
Mm-hmm.
You can do some smaller, like 6 to 8 hour experiences like Death of the Outsider. You can do things. You can do smaller games set in these universes. You can have a team of like 50 people go make the next Dishonored. And the rest of you are going to help support on other Bethesda projects like DLCs or whatever. Like, okay, fine. I don't understand why you... Like, we were talking about Perfect Dark when we saw the footage and when we were doing our predictions for the summer showcase. And it was like, studio needs help making an immersive sim game. Really wish we hadn't just closed Arcane Austin.
Right.
Like, you could have been like, hey, we're gonna pull back on having you guys make your own games for a little bit. You're gonna help out with because Crystal Dynamics has a studio based in Austin. You're gonna help Crystal Dynamics and the initiative get Perfect Dark out the door.
Right.
You guys came here because you wanted to work on immersive sims. Here you go. And like, so many of us watched that footage and we were like, damn, this really looks like Dishonored.
Yeah.
This really looks like this looks like an Arcane game.
Yeah.
So it's just one maddening decision after another. And like, they ultimately got closed because of things that people before Matt and Phil took over made the decisions on.
Right.
Because of things that, Robert Altman and the old board made the decision on. Like, they paid the price for that ultimately. It's a miracle that fucking Hi-Fi Rush actually came out, I think. But for it to be the best game that studio has put out by far, like not even a contest, and then to be closed right after.
I mean, it's one of the best games Xbox has put out in forever at this point. I mean, like in a, comparatively. I don't know, man. It's so...
I understand the need and the want to have smaller experiences and this is where things got kind of misconstrued, and I like that Jason Schreier cleared this up. Matt Booty said that they wanted smaller experiences, and everybody's like, well, Hi-Fi Rush is a smaller experience. And no, he didn't mean smaller like that. He meant smaller as in development time. Like, something that you can take, like, you can make in like 2 years and be able to put out on Game Pass. You can take longer on your AAAs, but we need smaller teams making smaller games. Like, Grounded was a home run for them.
Yeah.
Pentiment, not so much, but Pentiment got, look at all the reviews that Pentiment got, right?
Right.
It was always going to be a niche game, but Game Pass allows you to make games like that.
Yeah.
To make things like that, to make things like Hellblade, to make things like Hi-Fi Rush. Like, Hi-Fi Rush was never profitable. And that's fine. The people who played it loved it.
Yeah.
And I mean, both of us had it on our top 10 last year.
Right. But when you have games like Hi-Fi Rush, you know what games are supposed to supplement that? Halo, Gears, Call of Duty, right?
The games that have been absent this entire generation.
Yeah.
Like that is what we keep coming back to. I feel like you and I have to say this every 6 months. Like Xbox doesn't have a games problem; it has a AAA problem
Yeah,
because their smaller games have been home runs this generation, as far as I'm concerned.
absolutely.
Pentiment, Grounded. I'll throw as Dusk Falls in there. That was a great pickup. Interior Night got dropped by Sega. Microsoft came in and picked it up. I think that was perfectly fine to throw on Game Pass. It
Yep.
was a nice little 7.5 out of 10 game. Great. Leading into Series X, that was the summer that we got Tell Me Why, we got Battletoads, we got Minecraft Dungeons. These are all games that were $30 or less.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they've largely Hi-Fi Rush was a $30 or less game. These are games that, and I would say every one of those outside of Battletoads was worth playing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I think Psychonauts was some AAA, incredible masterpiece. Like, I think, if anything, Psychonauts 2 shows how hard it is to make and market a platformer that is not simultaneously releasing on a Nintendo console.
Yeah.
Or even made by Nintendo, honestly.
Yeah.
But Psychonauts 2 was a Game of the Year nominee. Like, your big games are not getting it done. Like, when we are almost 4 years into this generation as of this fall, how many AAA games have we gotten, Corey? Like, not just in terms of budget, I would say in terms of scope. We've gotten Halo Infinite, Forza Horizon 5, Forza Motorsport, Redfall, and Starfield.
Yeah.
That's about it. 4 years into the generation. That's what you've gotten in terms of AAA sized experiences that people expect when you buy a $70 game. That is the experience. That is the experience and the amount of content you are expecting.
Yep.
Because I'm sorry, I love the world of Hellblade. I haven't finished Senua's Saga yet. It's sitting right there at about a 7 or an 8 for me right now.
Yeah.
Partway into the game. I don't even know if that's a $50 experience. To me, that's like a 30 or 40.
Yeah, I would say I would put it at 40.
It is the world's best tech demo that I've ever played. Like, again, like, it goes back to what you and I were saying in May. If that had come out in the first year of the console, we would have all been like, oh my God, this is going to be an incredible generation. Yep. This shows what this box can do. For that to come out 3.5 years in is shameful. That is shameful.
Yeah.
And no matter what we think of it, like, it is visually incredible. The combat is just dog shit. The combat is so bad. Like, it looks, sounds, feels very special, but the controls and the combat are so bad. It's like, that's the kind of stuff we excuse at the beginning of a new generation. We don't excuse that years in. It's just like, it's like the Order 1886. Same thing. Interesting story, gorgeous graphics, great concept, but it was a QTE fest. And that's not something you can release a couple years into a generation. And I think, like, both platforms are really struggling with this, but Xbox so much more, because at least PlayStation may be struggling with the games to get out, but whenever they put out a first-party game, it's an event.
Yeah.
They have had, they may not have had a ton, but the ones they've had have hit. They launched with fucking Miles Morales and Demon's Souls.
Yeah.
In the first 18 months of the console, they had Horizon, they had Gran Turismo, they had God of War Ragnarok. Then they come out with Spider-Man 2. They had Returnal. They've had Ratchet and Clank. Every one of those games reviewed very, very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
Despite, overall, they've had less exclusives than Xbox has, funny enough. It's just they have the AAA games.
Yeah.
They have the AAA experiences that you come to expect.
Well,
we make fun of them for the reissues, and, like, kind of rightfully so. But now their games that you didn't think were going to be hits are getting the attention because of their single-player initiatives. Oh, Helldivers 2, like, that's a perfect example of you release something on PC and console at the same time. It's lost its console player base, largely. It is still going so strong on PC.
Yeah.
I think Matt Piscatella said it's like in the 20s for engagement on console, and it's still like number 4 or 5 on the Circana charts for PC.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. That's wild. Out of every PC game, it is number 5.
That's awesome for them, though.
It's a great success, but that's what I'm kind of getting at, is like, they're getting success in other places now because, like, oh, these are also experiences that aren't being priced at $70. Helldivers was a $40 experience. Astrobot, I don't know how much Astrobot's going to be, but I don't think it's $70. And Concord's going to be $40. Like,
yeah,
great. You're kind of learning how to play this game now.
Yeah.
And like if the quality is there, people will come. And I to be fair, I heard very mixed things about Concord. Some people said they loved it, others said it was unplayable for them. So
yeah,
there's still things to be done there, but I mean they're kind of hitting the slam dunks there, and you really hope Microsoft can pull it out with these single player games. Like show us why we should be spending $70. Show us the value of your service.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want
Especially
it
if
to
you're going to lean that way into the
right.
service instead of the box. Because, like, I mean, the other big thing too is like their whole marketing thing, which you shouldn't be using negative connotations in your marketing, first of all. But it says like you don't need an Xbox to play Xbox. Like if you're going to lean into the service, right? Because it just came to the Amazon Fire Stick or whatever, that new Fire Stick. Like you gotta prove it. You gotta prove why like that person in particular needs to pay $20 because it's part of the cloud service, right? So they have to pay for Ultimate.
Yeah. And like if you can have that steady stream of games, then I think more people are going to look at it and be like, man, the value's there. Like it's so easy to ding on the value because they haven't had those $70 experiences.
Yeah.
And the ones they have come out, it's like, okay, Forza's going to do numbers no matter what. Halo, it's probably time for us to start having a conversation about Halo. The Halo's not the, number machine it used to be.
Yeah.
Next year for me is kind of the make or break on Game Pass. At that point, you've had it going for 5-6 years. It's probably time for us to start having a conversation about if this is even going to be a thing next generation. And I do think that, like, regardless if they get into a cadence or not of games, I think Game Pass is probably going to go away. I think we've blown right by the need for subscriptions.
Yeah.
But it is ultimately, it is a nice money saver. If that cadence of indie games ever slows up, though, for me, it becomes a lot less valuable. Like, I'm already going to buy these single player games. Why do I need to keep paying a subscription? Like, I'd rather get a handful of physical copies at that point.
Yeah. And
like,
then
I would rather own Indiana Jones and, like, E-Day at that point and Fable than play them through a subscription service.
Yeah.
Especially when a lot of us are already buying the upgrades for some of these games. Like, I bought Shattered Space for Starfield last year because I got the week early access over Labor Day, which was a brilliant idea, by the way. That's how you do it. That's how you make sure you still get money from your subs.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to do the same thing for Black Ops this year. I'm probably going to buy the $30 Vault upgrade because, I get the season pass for that season. I get some tier skips. I already was going to probably buy the Black Cell pass. Like, cool. So I pay for it early and I get all that. Plus I get all this extra zombies content. Cool. Like, but that's how they get you.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've done it with Forza. And it's like, at that point, like, am I really even saving myself any money or not? The answer is probably not.
Right.
Because I'm still paying for these games ultimately. I'm just paying for the upgrades and for the DLCs. And I'm trying to tell myself, it's not as bad that way. Like, for someone who's cash strapped, it's still a great deal. There's no denying it. Yeah. It's becoming a harder and harder sell to people who don't do anything with their free time than play games, though. Like, for people who do things other than play games, it's becoming a really hard sell. And I don't blame anybody for cutting it.
Yeah.
The content is, if you are here for the first party content, the content is not there currently.
Right.
It is not there. And a price hike is going to infuriate people, correctly so. Vote with your wallets, man. That's what I always say. I say vote with your wallet. The worst part is this probably isn't the final price increase you're seeing either.
Mm-mm.
That's the worst part about all of this.
I bet it goes up to at least $24.99 in the next year. Would be my thought.
I don't know if it goes up this next year. I think they know they can't. They're playing with fire already right here. And like, judging by the reactions that we've seen publicly and the fact they still have not addressed it publicly speaks volumes.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was probably going to get talked about at Gamescom, and now I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
If anything, the thing that would equal this out, I think, would be them coming out and saying, well, we're going to get rid of it. We're going to get rid of Xbox Live. The requirement to pay to play online, we're going to get rid of it. That would genuinely shift perception back in your favor.
Yeah.
But at that point, everybody's waiting for the other shoe to drop because you keep fucking up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. It's weird though, because like the free to play games you don't have to pay online for. Which would include Halo and Destiny and Overwatch and like half the stuff that they own, Warzone.
Fortnite would be included in
So, like,
that.
why even bother at that point, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like, what? You're going to have the Madden players pay for your online service? Like,
It's so dumb.
yeah, it's archaic at this point. Like, I understood at the beginning, like, especially like during the original Xbox and the Xbox 360 days, right? Because like, oh, this is like, they're building something here. But like now that you have like the subscription services and microtransactions and free to play games that pay for almost everything, right? Like it seems redundant at this point. And I know it's a steady income, but you know what else is a steady income? Those Fortnite skins that everybody's paying for. So, and you get 30% rip off of every single one.
I mean, I look at, and I think that you're going to see a lot of other, yeah, I think you're going to see a lot more like games that come out as a $70 product and then have expansions, right? Like Diablo has always done this, but Diablo has another expansion already planned that they're already working on beyond Vessel of Hatred.
Mm-hmm.
That ultimately means that to play that game, you are paying a minimum of, if you buy everything at launch, you're paying a minimum of like $150.
Mm-hmm.
Like I bought the big edition when it came out. I bought the Ultimate Edition last year, and it did not even come with Vessel of Hatred. So for me to buy Vessel of Hatred and the next expansion, I'm looking at another $100. It's $200 I'm spending on Diablo ultimately. That's
Yeah.
what they want. They
Mm-hmm.
want that money.
Yep.
And from a business perspective, I get it. From a player perspective, this is how you lose players.
Yep.
And then on top of that, oh, we're going to do seasonal content and this and that. And it's been so easy for me to say no to the seasonal content so far. I keep hearing it's good and like, oh, they've improved things so much and this and that. And like, oh, that's great. I'm honestly really excited that Avowed is going to be like a one and done $60 game.
Yeah.
I'm really excited Indiana Jones is going to be that way.
I can't wait for Indiana Jones.
Like, and that's the sad part is they have so many games that we're looking forward to, but the business of it all overshadows what should be a super exciting time for Xbox fans. And instead, for like the last 2 years, it's just been stepping on rakes constantly.
Yeah.
Ever since the Activision purchase was announced, they can't help themselves.
Right.
And I mean, ultimately, it goes back a lot further than that, right? But Phil Spencer really hit it on the head with that Kind of Funny interview last spring after Redfall came out, where he was like, man, last generation was the worst one for us to lose. He meant it in terms of the digital libraries, and I don't necessarily disagree. I think in terms of it being really the kickoff of the social media age for gaming.
Mm-hmm.
That's when Reddit and Twitter really rose to prominence for gamers, was in 2012, 2013-ish.
Yep.
And there is an entire generation of gamers who have grown up. I mean, you think about that. It was 12 years ago. Yeah, it was 11 to 12 years ago when we got those revealed. If you are in your early 20s, you've never known a time where Xbox was good.
Right.
Like you grew up only with a PlayStation. If you're younger than that, you probably grew up with a Switch and a PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
Like people don't go out and buy Xbox. Like those of us still buying Xbox are the legacy gamers.
Yeah.
Or the legacy Xbox fans. And now with the news that they may be discontinuing it in, Europe, Asia, and Africa, that's even more of a disaster.
Yeah. Especially Europe, right? I mean,
I can't believe that they're actually considering it for Europe. That is, to me, that signals that you're probably done with making consoles after next generation.
Yeah, and I think they're only doing next generation because they already announced it at this point, right? I mean,
yeah.
not that they haven't gone back on things before, but
it's so embarrassing.
Yeah, I would, man. Yeah, I don't even. Here's a story, Josh. I have a story for you.
Okay.
You're talking about how kids have, pretty much grown up in an age where Xbox sucks to them, right?
Yep.
My nephews both have Xboxes. My one nephew's Xbox, the HDMI port went bad, and they're trying to figure out if they should fix it or get a new one or not. And they're considering not fixing it, my nephews are, and actually trading them both in and buying a PlayStation.
I mean, at this point,
because
I wouldn't blame them,
because they're not Game Pass users, right? I mean, they're Minecraft kids, they're Fortnite kids, they're I don't know what else they play. Like,
Roblox.
no, they're not so much into Roblox, but they play a lot of multiplayer games that are, I think my one nephew's kind of into Apex a little bit. Like, they're playing those types of games and they're not utilizing Game Pass. And I said, well, as long as you
Yeah.
know your passwords for those games, like, you could just load up your save on PlayStation and it would look better because you are playing on Series S's, and you'll get that 120 frames you want, right? Because you'll be playing on PlayStation and not an S. And I don't blame them because there's nothing keeping them on Xbox, and they want to play Spider-Man and they want to play Wolverine, and like they're like, oh, that samurai game looks cool, and I'm like, they were talking about Ghost of Tsushima, and I'm like, yeah, like PlayStation has some pretty good single player games. And I said, I think, Spider-Man's getting some DLC soon, apparently. And they were like, oh, we want a PlayStation. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to be honest with you guys. There's nothing keeping you on Xbox. Like, you probably just got it because it was the cheapest option.
Right.
And, and that's.
But I mean, when the $170 Series S isn't even drawing people in anymore,
Yeah.
There's a problem.
Yeah.
There's a problem. There's a messaging problem. There's a game problem. There's a perception problem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that people are really like aware, if you're outside of the gaming bubble, like how that's perceived.
Yeah.
And I mean, the casual consumer doesn't give a shit.
Mm-mm.
I want to be really honest. They don't give a shit. They want to get their kids what their friends are playing on, though, and that has been PlayStation for 10 years.
Yeah.
That's been the Switch for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And why would we buy you the other thing? It's kind of like the equivalent of being a GameCube kid in like 2002.
Yeah.
Like, honest, like for real.
No,
for how nostalgic everybody gets about N64, it was the equivalent of being an N64 kid or a Sega kid.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly what it's like. When I was growing up, everybody had a PlayStation. I was the only one with Nintendo consoles.
Yeah.
And, oh God, it's almost like, why the Wii U didn't sell,
Yeah.
Like, Wii U didn't sell because everybody, I mean, first of all, it was between generations, but everybody had an Xbox or a PlayStation.
Yeah.
Like, everyone had a Wii, but you really only had it for Wii Sports.
Yeah.
You didn't have it for anything else.
Yeah.
So it's the same old adage about why PSP and PSV always struggled to take off. Like, you were trying to get into a completely Nintendo dominated market.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we going to buy you something where you can play these exact games but way better on a PS2,
All right,
or PS3 or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know where you go from here if you're Xbox. But I think the next 18 months are really critical for, I guess, the path they want to go. They kind of need to. I don't think they need to fold on this generation necessarily. I mean, they're not going to win it. They're definitely coming in last place. Like, sales are lagging behind even the Xbox One at this point, which is pathetic.
Right.
My
thing is like, you need, first of all, you need to get your messaging correct and figure out the Game Pass messaging. But like,
and that needs to be done ASAP.
Right. And at this point, like, you promote if you're going to continue to make hardware, your hardware plays Game Pass, or the cloud stuff plays Game Pass, or if you want to buy their games on PlayStation, you pay the $70 or the $80 or the $120, depending on what version. That's that's what they have to do at this point. I think that's my opinion, because I don't care if Xbox games are on other consoles. I really don't.
I don't give a shit. Who cares?
My concern for me personally would be like, okay, well, I've invested in the storefront on this console, right? Like, if the hardware goes away, what happens to all that stuff eventually? And like, not that I like go back and play a ton of games all the time, but like, I've spent a pretty penny on the Xbox store, and backwards compatibility and the 360 games. Like, that's the big thing too, is like how do you incorporate 360 games if you're going to lean into the PC market? Like, which is why I still think there's going to be collections of games at some point of Fable and Gears, essentially, at some point. But I don't know. They have to get their Game Pass messaging right, and they have to lean into the messaging of, hey, you can play Game Pass on our console, or you can pay $70 or $80 on somebody else's console. So
yeah, and it's just like how do you message that to casuals, right?
Yeah.
To people who are not, living and breathing this shit 24/7, because that's honestly who you need to appeal to.
Yeah.
And I think Xbox has always been kind of a tough sell to families.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the OG box, the 360 was really an anomaly, and it really only spiked with families because of Kinect.
Yeah.
And Kinect was like a flash in the pan, right? Because that's when they saw what the Wii did and were like, we got to copy that.
Yeah.
Them and Sony both said that, both to horrible results.
Mm-hmm.
Because not even Nintendo knew how to maintain it past like 2 or 3 launch games.
I don't know, man. 1-2 switch is pretty great.
Jesus fuck. We're gonna keep talking in circles, but
I know.
yeah, at the end of the day, get your messaging straight, figure out what you're gonna do. Like I think they've had some good ideas. Like, hey, no box, no problem. You can still play the games. The problem is the internet infrastructure isn't there. You are ahead of the curve again by like 2 to 3 years. By then it might not matter.
Yeah.
But like you said, like you got to lean on what you got. You've got the best controller, you've got the best UI, you got the easiest to use store. I think you've got the best chat systems easily.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can lean in on things like that. The cross compatibility with PC. Buy once, play it anywhere. Xbox Play Anywhere is a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not nearly utilized enough.
No. It's not talked
And
about enough.
it's not. I mean, part of that's because the Xbox store sucks so much ass. What if you could buy a game on regular Xbox and then play it on Steam?
Right.
That would be the kicker. If you could do that, it'd
Yeah.
be huge. And I do think that, we talked about this in Tower Casuals. The next box does need to do what Phil was talking about. It needs to open up to other consoles. Like, if they were to make a handheld and have the itch and Steam stores on there, that'd be massive for them.
Yeah.
That'd be massive. That'd be absolutely massive. Imagine if you could come out and be like, strike a deal even with Epic and like, oh, the Epic store is on there so I can play Fortnite?
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's got to boot into some sort of like really customized PC build almost at that point, right? Like with an Xbox interface.
And like the worst part is they've already acknowledged that that's what they would need to do. It's just they aren't doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't really have much else to say on this. It's very messy. It's been messy, but it just keeps getting messier, it feels like. And
it's a catastrophe.
So I don't know. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
No, I have nothing else to say. There is nothing to say because it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
So, and I feel bad because there are so many talented teams at Xbox.
Yeah.
There's so many creatives there. And it leaves me scared for, well, what's the next thing to close? Like, they're almost certainly looking at Ninja Theory and Double Fine at this point. 2 auteur studios that take forever to make fucking games.
Yeah.
And one racks up the bills. The other one, barely keeps the lights on, apparently. So, I don't know, but like, pumping out more Call of Duty is not the answer.
Yeah.
Pumping out more Diablo is not the answer. Or pumping out, more World of Warcraft isn't like. You still got to clean out those studios, of all the shit bags that were there under Bobby Kotick. There's still so many things you have to do long term, and just like, is it going to matter in like 3 years?
Right.
It's the question we're all asking. So we'll see.
We shall see. Well, Josh, I don't know. I feel like we hit on every single one of these news stories.
We did. They just all kind of ran together, so I just went with it.
Yeah. Not to just harp on this, but what do you think about the Amazon Fire Stick thing, Game Pass?
I think it's sad that the UI for that is better than the UI on the Xbox app for Windows.
Well, that's every app. That's every.
I think it's cool, but it's like it's not even being promoted. Like,
yeah,
what are we doing over here, Aaron? Like, you work with Amazon's marketers if you don't want to do it. Like, tell them, here's all our assets. You can use whatever you want.
Right.
Like,
right.
Come on, man. Like, Amazon it's just in our app for them. They don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, if Sony was doing this, they would be doing an all-out marketing blitz for it. Guaranteed.
My TV has an Xbox app on it.
And I guarantee you, when Sony starts doing this, we're going to see a push the likes of which we've never seen. People are going like, oh, yeah, Xbox has been doing this for a while. Why didn't we hear about this? Because Aaron Greenberg fucking sucks at his job.
Yeah.
That's why.
It's not great.
He's wasting time making theater commercials that people are going to see maybe once at best.
Yeah. It's
power your dreams. With what fucking games, Aaron? Maybe you could show the games in the Power Your Dreams commercials. They were fun as a little proof of concept in 2020. They're not fun 4 years later when we still don't have fucking AAA games.
Yeah.
When 2 of the AAAs we've gotten are Forza games.
Good
And
Forza games.
I like Forza.
I don't think I think we all kind of like Forza. It's
so, just... like when the biggest success stories on your platform are the 5th Forza Horizon and Sea of Thieves, which came out 6 years ago, there might be a problem.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
The Halo's in the fucking gutter.
Yeah.
So
don't worry though, Josh. You can you don't need an Xbox play Xbox.
I will say something that in a tiny sliver of positive news, Xbox giving away those Forza Horizon 4 codes to anyone who bought DLC.
Yeah, see,
on Game Pass.
That's great, but
that's a slam dunk.
That's the good news that's hidden under all the rakes they just stepped on.
I was actually really surprised. I truly did not remember until they sent me a code that I didn't actually buy Forza Horizon 5. I just bought the DLCs. And I was like, huh. I mean, I'm probably never going to play 4 again, but it's a nice gesture.
Yeah.
So, like, eventually when they delist 5, I'm assuming I'm going to get a code for 5 also because I bought the ultimate add-on to it. This was the same thing I did for 4.
Yeah.
That's a cool little thing to do, and I think that's the proper thing to do. We always wondered how they were going to handle it when they delisted these games from Game Pass, and I think that's a very, very good move. I saw people be like, why are they even taking it off? Do y'all know how much the rights cost for those cars, those tracks, and for the music that's in these games?
There are 712 cars in Forza
it's
Horizon
the same
4.
reason why every single one of these games gets delisted offline. It's why eventually the sports games get taken down and this and that. You got to pay all those likeness fees, all those music fees.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, that is actually a lot of money that you have to pay. The record companies want their money.
Yep.
So, yeah. And
yeah.
I listen, someone like Microsoft could sit there and pay it for forever. And frankly, when it comes to Forza, they probably should. But Horizon 4 being available as long as it was digitally, that's a new record. Most of these get delisted like 4 years after they come out. Mm-hmm. That game's been up since 2018.
Yeah.
That's 6 years. That's not a bad run.
Nope.
3-4 years is usually the max.
Especially when you have 2 or 3 games after it. So if you include Motorsport as well.
Yeah, nobody includes Motorsport.
Someone does.
God, talk about another disaster.
Have they done anything with Motorsport?
They're still trying to fix it.
Is it still broken?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I believe so.
All right, Josh. I think that's it.
Is there? Are you playing anything fun?
I'm playing Elden.
Are you playing anything interesting?
I'm playing Elden Ring.
Elden Ring.
I've put about 15 hours into it, and I still don't know if I'm having fun or not.
Jesus.
I have to say, the parts I do like are the exploration and that sense that like Breath of the Wild gave us the first time.
The world of Elden Ring is breathtaking.
Yeah, it's really fun to explore the world. And I know, like, again, I know you have to like level up everything to make your combat feel the way you want it to, but it does feel a little slow right now and a little bit clunky, but I know it's because the animations kind of lock while you're doing your combat. So like, I'm not complaining about it. It's just, that's how it feels right now.
Right.
I fought 4 bosses and I've beaten 4 bosses. So that's cool. Except there's like this horse at the beginning area that is like just murdering me. So I just have to keep running past it when I go back through that area.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's really annoying because I just want to kill it and like get it over with. But I'm not good enough. So I have to get good, Josh. I have to get good at the Elden Ring.
You do, clearly.
But nothing else. I mean, I've been playing Iron Banner and Destiny a little bit actually, for some reason. But that's kind of it. Are you playing anything fun, Josh?
I mean, I'm playing Destiny right now. I've tried to dabble in other games, and I'm just like nothing's interesting to me right now. Like,
Hmm.
and it's not that I'm good. No, there's nothing to play. It's just like I'm kind of like burned out on games in general. Like we had to hit it so hard for Destiny last month.
Yeah.
I've been on the Destiny grind for like three straight months, you know, with all the Into the Light content and the Pantheons, and then the expansion comes out, and Salvation's Edge came out, so I was trying to get through that, and like we've had a bunch of seasonal content. We got new seasonal content dropping by the time this episode is uploaded. I'm kind of ready for just like a break.
Yeah.
I'm
I
ready for a
agree.
break from shooters. I'll put it that way. So
Yeah.
I'm hopefully going to get the Hades 2 here in the next few weeks. I downloaded Animal Well and Dave the Diver on my PlayStation last night upon remembering
Nice.
I have PS Plus.
Nice. Nice.
Um, and the what you call it, the DLC for Persona is a couple months away, so I might dabble in a new game plus run of Persona 3
Ooh.
to get ready for the DLC, the standalone DLC, The Answer. Um, Other
Nice.
than that, man, I'm just kind of like biding my time. I think once Astrobot comes out the beginning of September, and that's gonna like kind of kick off the fall season for me.
Yeah.
Um, and this fall, I mean, it's pretty much all Xbox. It's
Yeah.
Xbox and some multiplats, but there's Diablo coming up. There's Avowed. There's Indiana Jones. There's Metaphor. A Metaphor might be my most anticipated game of the rest of the year. Frankly, like
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for a lot of the stuff on Xbox this fall.
mhm.
Indiana Jones specifically for me.
I mean, genuinely, it's a good lineup. It's just can you actually market it?
Well, we kind of just shadow over their marketing team, so maybe not. But um yeah, I'm also getting ready for Zelda, the um
I already forgot about that.
the
I'm going
new
to be
one.
completely honest.
I forget what it's called. The Zelda one. The Zelda one.
Yeah, I need to get excited for that. That's the one Nintendo game I'm like super pumped for this year.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those that like, man, if I didn't play this right away, I'd be okay.
Yeah, I still need to finish Link's Awakening. I have 2 dungeons left, and I played it like religiously when I was on vacation the last time, like 2 years ago when we went to the beach or whatever. And then I stopped playing it, and then I haven't finished it. So
Yeah.
I have 2 dungeons left though, so maybe I'll finish that at some point. But like you, I feel like really burned out on games, and I keep trying to push myself through Elden Ring, and I just feel like that's just a bad decision at this point.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think Elden Ring is a bad game at all. I'm
Oh, I
just
don't either.
burned the fuck out.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad game. I feel like this is the third Souls-ish game that I've tried,
Yeah.
and maybe fourth. I finished Bloodborne. I played like half of Dark Souls 1, and I tried Dark Souls 3, and now I'm playing Elden Ring, and I'm just like, I'm at the point where I'm just like, I really just don't think these games are for me, and it's not because they're bad games. They're just that genre is just not for me at this
And
point.
I think that's totally fair too. Like I think being able to admit that is bigger than people realize.
Hmm.
Because like not admitting that is a problem.
Hmm.
I think forcing yourself to play something that you're not having fun with is a problem that we see a lot in this space. Like I've had friends trying to force themselves through Elden Ring, or trying to force themselves to enjoy, trying to enjoy Destiny, or these other games that we really like. And I'm like, you don't have to like it all.
Yeah,
It's okay. Like I had a really, really, really hard time getting into The Witcher,
yeah,
and that on paper should be a game that I love.
yeah.
I love the books. I love the world. I cannot get into the game at all for some reason. For some reason, The Witcher 3 did not click with me. And that's fine. You know, I
Hmm.
think, and like the inverse can happen too, where like once in a while we get really surprised. They're like, oh, the masses really responded to this, like Elden Ring, like Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 is still in the top 10 most played games on PC.
Yeah, that's
A year
wild.
later, that's wild. Like I never would have guessed that an isotopic RPG that is heavily steeped in D&D 5e would be that popular, but here we are.
Yeah,
So it goes to show like any game can have that popularity.
yeah.
Nobody predicted Helldivers 2 this year. So, there's been a lot of really great success stories over the last year or so, and I just at some point we hope that Xbox gets one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe Maybe Avowed might be
I think Avowed is going to be a bigger hit than people are expecting. I think it's going to be a slow adoption because the Pillars universe has never sold well traditionally.
right.
And it's a drastic change for those who did play it. That was an ISO RPG, and this is very much like Skyrim.
Right. But I think that might draw people in those that it's very
I,
like
I hope it
Skyrim.
does. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, the people who were interested in it before probably aren't now. And
Yeah.
that hinders you, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh, we're announcing Avowed and a Pillars 3 at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm hoping that and indie can kind of be these popular single player games. I think Towerborn has the chance to be that breakout multiplayer game for them.
Yeah, but where is it?
In production. So I'd rather them take longer. The Banner Saga devs have never made a multiplayer game before, and that's who's making it. Soic Studios.
Mm-hmm.
So I would rather them take their time on it. From what I've heard, that game is going to launch into early access when it does launch. Which I'm a little leery of, but then I remember, hey, we had Grounded launch like that, and Grounded's maybe like their best new IP of the generation. So
Yeah.
who knows?
Who knows, Josh?
Who knows?
Who knows? Well, Josh, we did it.
We did it. Let's
let's
get out of here.
We did the Xbox casuals.
We did the Xbox casuals.
Oh
we did
my
the
gosh.
thing.
Oh man, I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening to this episode of Xbox Casuals. Hopefully we didn't shadow over their marketing team too bad, but we did.
God.
Maybe they should
hopefully we didn't take a large enough shit on them.
God. It's bad though. Anyways, Josh, thank you for your time tonight as always. I don't want to go on another hour-long diatribe because I totally could.
I can't do it. I can't do it anymore.
Where can we find you?
Josh_Finn, 2 N's.
2 N's, everybody.
2 N's.
You can find me, and I am Corey HD on Twitter and Instagram and all those places that still exist somewhere. Check out Tower Casuals, our Destiny podcast every Friday. Check this out every other Tuesday or when something interesting happens. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye.